Welcome to Talking Tactics, a show about insights and the results they ignite. I'm Safy Stevenson, a brand strategist and cultural analyst in the wonderful world of marketing. And every other week, I dig into the aha moments that changed everything for a higher education marketer. Each episode of Talking Tactics starts with an insight, following it from observation to action that created measurable results. We're talking about the breakthrough moments that happen with scrappy resources, and sometimes we'll even explore the tactics that, crashed and burned, because there's also value in trial and error. Your next innovative idea might be hiding in your data, your hallway conversations, or your own gut instinct. So let's get to it. All right, folks, we're back with another episode of Talking Tactics. I'm extremely excited about this episode today because we kind of are taking a little bit of a hot take approach to this because, we're always talking about marketing, brand. But what if the bold move is going brandless? Okay, stick with us here. In the studio today, we have Deneen Gillespie, Assistant Vice President of Strategic Communications and Marketing with the University of Illinois Systems. How's it going, friend?
Hey there. I am super excited to talk to you today.
So one of the things that you guys should know about Deneen is one thing I really love about her work is it is grounded in a deep commitment to inclusive communications and also just being able to really build these sophisticated multi-channel content systems. And in addition to that, Deneen is also a great hang at AMA. So if you ever see her, make sure you grab a drink, a snack, because she's awesome. So thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And yes, we have to do more AMAs for sure.
Absolutely. We're going to get into what I loved about this episode and what I'm going to love talking about is one, we're doing things a little bit different, right? Because we're talking about a system versus an individual university. And two, we're talking about now not anti-brand, but approaching it differently. So you spent most of your career actually on the university side, and now you're at the system level. So what's the biggest mindset and shift that you had to make going from the university level to the system level?
Yeah, it's such an important question. I think the biggest shift for me was learning to lead through rather than for. So at the university level, your job is to tell your institution story in a compelling way, right? You own the narrative, the brand, all of the channels. But at the system level, I learned that I had to let go of ownership in that way because my job isn't to be necessarily the loudest voice, it's to make the campuses more powerful by giving them something to stand behind together. At the system level, I think you're not seen as a peer by your campus communicators
Right.
right away. And that's fair, right?
Yeah.
And so when I came in, you really had to earn that credibility with the people. And listen, I work with amazing campus communicators who are all just lovely people, but they have a big job themselves. And because of that, they're very protective of their turf, as they should be. My mindset shift was really about moving from being the creator to more of a connector, which is pretty natural for me. But the biggest one was moving from authority to really building trust, right? To create that community.
And when you talk about, again, going over and having to kind of earn that trust, now that you've kind of seen both sides, now that you're in a different seat, what do you wish that university marketers understood more about actually what's going on when it comes to kind of the system level collaboration or tactics?
Yeah. I think what I really wish they understood is that we don't want to flatten what they're doing into a system brand,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's really about trying to build this rising tide
Mm-hmm.
because what we want to do at the system level is have credibility that lifts every single campus
Right.
and give all of their stories the amplification that it deserves. That's the whole kit and caboodle there. Our campus partners, they're really great at what they do. And that makes everything much more easier. But
Mhm.
it really is getting them to understand that we're not trying to bring you into the brand. We're trying to lift everybody up.
So, one of your tactics was once you got to the system level, and this is also, again, we talked about a very hot take. One of your first initiatives internally to kind of build that trust and get the ball rolling, you described going, quote, like brandless at the system level, AKA replacing like that traditional brand of like the power of the collective. Walk us through what it looks like to be brandless at the system level, because as somebody who has worked as a brand strategist and have done like multiple system level like brand campaigns, right,
Yeah.
or rebranding and all, and look and feel and all these things, what does that look like? Because that's a different approach to take to say we're going to be brandless. What does that actually look like in practice? Because I know that's scary to folks. It was scary to me when you mentioned it.
Yeah. And you know what? I would actually push back a little bit on the word brandless, just a
Mhm,
little, because it wasn't necessarily about trying to abandon any identity. It
mhm,
was really about choosing what to brand.
mhm.
So we stopped trying to brand the system as a thing, and we started branding the relationship among the three universities and with the state and the communities and our students. We wanted to make sure that that came through. So,
Yeah.
what that looked like in practice meant that we were letting the campuses lead the storytelling
Mhm.
and letting the system provide the frame.
Got
So,
Okay.
one example is we have the Illinois Innovation Network, and it's an incredible network of institutions across the state where we're lifting all boats for economic development. It's not necessarily a U of I brand moment; it's a
Mhm.
collective infrastructure moment. So when you say three universities, 48 states, 48 sites in the whole state,
Yeah.
that to me, that's more powerful than any tagline,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
I guess from what you said, when you think about you said instead of branding, the system as a whole, we're trying to figure out like these individual line items to brand. How do you discern between what to brand and what to prioritize? Because I imagine all the individual universities and institutions, they have different strategic goals or they have different line items that they're trying to amplify. So how at the system level do you identify like what's first, second, third on a list without feeling like a university who you put this as low on your list, but it's high on their list, and then feeling
Mhm.
included and still value in kind of that year's work?
Well, that's where the frame, I think, comes into
Mhm.
play, right? Like really understanding our work is truly an economic impact,
Okay.
right? And what fits an economic impact, you need good health, you need access to good jobs,
Yeah.
you need access to clean water, so all of the pillars that the universities are actively working on, and doing, incredible research and graduating incredible students, it all fits in that frame. But for our vantage point,
Mhm.
it really is economic impact. So being able to set that frame, I think, changes everything.
And you mentioned having kind of like this network of like campus, was it campus connectors or it was something like that of like these individuals that are working kind of together with the system to gain just transparency and connectivity. What
Yeah.
does your advocacy look like at each individual school? Like how are you maintaining those relationships? Because you guys are juggling a lot at the system level on behalf of everyone. But what's that connection look like on the ground with each individual university?
Our campus communicators, who are all vice chancellors of communications at their universities, we meet every 2 weeks just to
Mhm.
talk about kind of what the system has in store in terms of Marcom and issues management and crisis management. And it's a place for us to not only kind of share updates,
Mhm.
but to also talk about where are the collective points that we need to be working on together. What are those moments? What are the opportunities, right?
Mhm.
That I think hadn't been done with as much intention as it's being done pretty currently.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really try our best to keep those meetings, also keep them, I meet with them all individually too,
Yeah.
to really get a sense of what's happening in their worlds. And likewise, they all have campus communicator meetings where they're meeting with individual units on their campuses. And sometimes I'll join those meetings just to hear, what's percolating? What should I
Mm-hmm.
know about in terms of storytelling and opportunities where the system could offer, whether it be funds or opportunities for all three of us to do some really interesting work. One
Yeah.
of the things that we're doing now is we have a program for early childhood education that we're offering hybrid classes online or in person, and it's at all of our universities.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time where we're branding that as one complete package, which is really, really exciting. And so those type of things come out of those meetings with the communicators. As you know, communications and marketing is not just isolated to words and pictures.
Yeah.
It's a lot of program development and definitely relationship building.
You hit on a little bit of the success you've been able to kind of rally around this almost brandless idea or strategic brand. You had a access and affordability campaign that drove so much traffic to the university websites. Schools were calling you and being like, "Hey, Deneen and team, are these numbers real? Like, where
Yeah.
did this surge of new website traffic and inquiries and applications, are we being hacked right now? What's going on?"
Yeah.
Because the tactic and that campaign works so well. Break
Yeah.
down the tactics that work and how you were able to build in or get buy-in across all the different institutions that weren't used to collaborating in that way. Because, like you said, the what was it? You said the tide rises all boats. This is one of those things
Mhm.
where you had that campaign, and each university was like, whoa,
Yeah.
results. So what were the tactics that were evenly spread across all the universities that kind of got that result?
Yeah. So access and affordability is one of our most important pillars at the system and our universities, right? It's
Mhm.
really leaning into our land grant mission. So it's super, super important to us. One of our universities was launching a new scholarship program that was truly unbelievable. If you
Mhm.
made $75,000 or less, you could pretty much go to school for free, right?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure everyone knew about that
Mhm.
because in our underserved communities, we hear a lot of times that they either think that these colleges are not for them or that they can't go to them or they don't have enough money. And so we knew that we wanted to dispel that.
Mhm.
So that particular university was already launching a campaign, and that campaign was incredible what
Mhm.
they had. What we wanted to do was, again, lift that up. But
Mhm.
we didn't want to just lift up that university. We wanted to do it for all of our universities. So we made sure that in our creative, we weren't just saying, "Hey, college is it's really affordable here. You can come." We wanted
We've
to
heard that
tell,
before.
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's allegedly, right?
Alle Right.
I mean,
Allegedly.
everybody can go. Yeah, right.
Right, right.
Um, so what we wanted to do was tell like the real dollar stories behind that, what it actually cost, what it actually covered.
Mhm.
We wanted to make sure that the creative was speaking to folks who look like you and I,
Mhm.
and making sure to geo target those areas so that they would be able to see that and really spark some interest. We also made sure to go into the community, into Alderman's office, and give them toolkits and things so that they could also be our ambassadors. And so we were really, really proud
Mhm.
of that tactic. I think one of the big challenges for us with any of these campaigns is like, it's the buy-in, right?
Mhm.
Campuses, they want to own their own enrollment narrative,
Right,
rightfully so.
right. And
And then here comes,
you're competing for the same types of students, the same types of family, and there can be that
yeah,
that inner system competition.
Yeah,
of, oh, we
exactly.
know that we can pull students from over on the west if we do this over on the east, and then it's east versus west, north versus south, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do we get everybody on the same page that this is like a common good for the entire system versus the individual
Exactly.
school? So yeah, I would love to know more about that. cause
Yeah.
cause what?
Yeah, yeah. And I think, sometimes it can be seen as, we're kind of poking our nose where it doesn't belong.
Mhm,
But again, it's more about the mission itself, for all of us. And so I think what we told them is we're going to run this coordinated campaign and it's going to deliver for you.
mhm.
Um, kind of speaking out of turn, unsure if it would, but
Yeah.
we made sure to really do an investment, and to work together so that that collaboration didn't feel like, inauthentic. It was
Mhm.
real. And we saw great results from it.
Yeah. All right, time for a quick break to share about something big happening this summer. If you're tired of the same old conference buzz and want real playbooks and real momentum, you need to make it to Charlotte, North Carolina for the Engage Summit 2026 this June 15th through 17th. Engage Summit is where you can take the next step toward building an agentic campus with strategies you can start implementing today, workshops that sharpen your skills, and a community dedicated to transforming how higher ed supports and serves students. Whether you lead enrollment, student success, marketing, or tech, this is where higher ed stops talking about AI and starts implementing it. And the best part, Enrollify listeners like you can grab a ticket for 50% off. Yeah, half off. Head to engage.element451.com and use code SAFANIA50. That's SAFANIYA 50. Register now and build what's next. Now, let's get back to the show. Yeah, and I think one of the big differentiators, and even kind of like just looking into the campaign, it just felt so connected and like grounded in the individual communities,
Yeah.
and people felt like you could just reach out and touch it. Like if you needed more information about this, and it just felt real and tangible. And I think that's what folks are looking for right now, right? Like students
Yes.
want to know, they're more budget conscious, they're more like resources and help conscious, and to have it so clearly laid out, but
Yeah.
also know, hey, the entire state is behind you in this decision. Like, and you at any time can contact us and get more information on costs. We can connect your parents with XYZ to get more information. And it just felt all together, like
Yeah.
versus fragmented, which was really cool to see.
Exactly. And I think you just hit on something. I think, as a parent of a former college student, I can say that the journey through financial aid and college decisions, it's really, really hard. Like
Hmm.
trying to get the information you need to make an informed decision about, this is a life decision
Right.
where you want to send your child to college. So making sure that that information was clear and that you could see, like, our U of I brand extends from Chicago to Springfield to Urbana. So you knew when you saw that U of I brand, that you were getting the best schools, regardless of what you make, where you live, that you would have that access. And so we
Hmm.
were really, really proud of that.
Yeah. And another layer that was very just, not again, not to be anti anything, but you know, prospective students now are using AI to look for
Yeah.
answers and to do all these things. And the campaign really kind of push folks to be like, hey, you can get real answers from a real person, because it's still very difficult to navigate the higher education system, like you said, especially when it comes down to what something costs versus what I can afford versus how I apply for things. And I mean, AI does a great job of getting answers, but also it can be incomplete, or maybe there's a different nuance between this campus and another campus. So to even know that students felt like, oh, I can actually just go to a person and ask, and it be a comfortable, welcoming experience, also goes a super long way as far as like brand and connecting to actual real people.
Exactly. Exactly. It was very reflective of who we are, for sure.
So one of the things that, and you mentioned it a little bit higher, you're like, communications is more than just, words and pictures. And we've talked about, brand, a big problem in higher education is sometimes that the words distract us from the work, right? So we have these big taglines, we have our strategic plans, and we get all these punchy sound bites. This is what we're going to do. And you all had a at the university system level, you all had a previous brand that was called, quote, altogether extraordinary. But as you were navigating through, the reality was there wasn't as much collaboration and working together that resulted in what you would define extraordinary. How do you go from diagnosing that gap between brand language and actual brand experience?
Hmm.
And because I think that was like your whole point of, maybe the brand isn't the lead, the work is the lead. The
Yeah.
campaign and the results are the lead. We don't need this with a big tagline and all this creative over here. We actually just need to be focused on the work and the outcome. How do you diagnose the gap between what the tagline is saying is going on versus what is going on inside the house?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'll say this, altogether extraordinary, which is still currently there. We're working to evolve that, but I don't think it was necessarily a failure because one of the things we do every year, we do a brand health survey. And so it shows that we have this growing awareness year over year around the system and our universities. And for the system, our communications office is only 6 or 7 years old. So the
Okay.
fact that we're experiencing some growth, I think that it shows that the awareness is working. I don't know necessarily that the tag is working, but there's something there, right? We know that building recognition from scratch is really hard work. So the fact that it's happening, we're really proud of that.
Mhm.
I would say the question that from the moment I took this job and that I'm sometimes still grappling with is why does a system need a brand at all? And I think that's the question most systems don't ask themselves.
Mhm.
They just kind of fall into doing what universities have done. We just get a visual identity, write a tagline, run some ads. It's very formulaic.
Mhm.
But because we're not a university, we don't have students, we don't have alumni. So what exactly is it for? And so if you can't answer that question, the brand is almost like decorating a question mark.
Okay. Okay. Throw a little
You
glue and
know?
glitter and just put a
Yeah,
big old question mark and just keep moving.
exactly,
But
exactly.
then it also draws more attention to it. Like you make it more flashy, and then when you don't have the questions answered, you've attracted so many eyes, but you can't answer the question back. So there's also that
Ex-
level of risk.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So, I mean, Altogether Extraordinary was definitely talking about all of our universities and together we're extraordinary. I also think it worked really well
Mhm.
internally to bind us closer. But I think as we're evolving, we're seeing, and you and I have talked about this, one of the things that's resonating is really this power of the collective.
Mhm.
There is the scale at which we're able to do things and see impact is really, really substantial. And so I think those words gets us closer to something that's more real, that multiplier effect. And really what we want to signal for a system is that we can do things that no single campus can do alone, right? We need our universities to do this together. But we're still working out what that is. And I think that tension is productive,
Mhm.
and I'd rather be there until we get something where we can be really confident in something that sounds good. But for now, I think where we are, just in that power of the collective, works. It really works. And so
Yeah.
I think what I'm trying to diagnose isn't necessarily between brand language and behavior, it's between brand language and purpose,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Getting our purpose right means the words will follow. And so that is actively where we are now.
And you have to work in your purpose long enough to be able to put a name to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to have your habits and best practice and like the niche thing that makes you you. You have to do the work first and then establish, okay, here I'm putting, like you said, a name to the purpose now versus we're going to name it and then try to grow into it, because then you can
Correct.
set expectations that are just misaligned with like just how you operate. And at a
Right.
system level, then you got your universities looking up at you like, what's going on up there?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
how can we be supportive, or you know, how can you all support us when you're swirling about what the purpose of the whole system can be or should be? So that's I think a great way to put like the purpose is really focused on the work and the brand, and that comes
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. And I think when they initially had Altogether Extraordinary, it was definitely aspirational.
Mhm.
And so now that we've lived in that aspiration, where are we now? And so
Yeah.
that's where we're trying to go to. So it's been an interesting journey, very different from what I'm used to at a university where it's a little bit cleaner, but I really enjoy it because I like being able to be curious and push back and test. And so being in that space has been really interesting as a marketer and communicator.
And at the system level, you're able to work with so many different individual institutions that have like, you're probably never bored because you're like, oh, they're doing this over there. That's a cool campaign. And then the next day,
Yes.
you're working with a university that's completely different from Monday, and now it's Tuesday. And so it probably can be whiplash, but I imagine it's pretty fun to also
Oh,
be able to also take things and learn from one institution and carry it over and say, maybe these institutions aren't talking to each other, but we've learned something. Like we've got some inside information that might help with this next university's campaign or event. So I know that's probably pretty cool to see everybody like there. You get like the scientists like looking over the lab, and you're like, ha ha ha, what's
right.
working, and bring this over here.
That's exactly right. I think every time, we get a chance to meet with our campus leads, I love it when they're in a room saying, "Hey, can I talk to you offline about that? That sounds really cool. We're just getting something like that started. I'd love to pick your brain."
We
Like,
love when the offline is something good.
it's something good.
Versus hey,
Amen.
can I talk to you offline? And you're like, oh no.
Exactly. 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 And I'm telling you that for me more than anything, I think people need to understand that brand is relationship. It's
Mhm.
purpose, it's relationship, and then it's like actively walking out what you said. And so I think that all of those things are really, really important considerations.
So, as someone's listening to this, I need you to give, typically I ask people, you know, final thing, if somebody wants to do this today or tomorrow, and normally it's one answer because they're talking to a fellow university. You have to give me two answers,
Okay?
two versions of the same answer. So if somebody wants to explore what it means to work with one, your system level or their system, and thinking about how do we focus in on purpose? How do we focus less on, you know, just trying to uphold this brand, a tagline, a color, you know, a creative theme? What's the first step if the tactic is redefine and anchor down your purpose? What's the first thing you would suggest for someone at the system level?
Do not make assumptions that you know exactly what it is and you're leaning into historic things of what we've done in the past, or you're looking at your universities to replicate that. I think you need to really ask questions and be comfortable in the tension of not knowing and
Mhm.
giving yourself time to really, really understand, like, what is our true value proposition? How does it align with our mission? Was I supposed to give you one word? Because I'm just talking.
No, no, not a one word. You can keep
Okay,
going.
good. Good, 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 good. But because I think I really do feel like being curious instead of accepting everything as it was, and really making sure that you explore that, is you're going to be much, much better off for it,
Mhm.
for sure.
And so the reverse question is, I'm a university marketer, brand strategist, communicator. How do I best work with and get the most return on investment with my relationship for our system level communicators?
Yeah, be a willing partner. Be a willing partner. Again, I cannot give our team more kudos. They are willing partners, and I think in the past, this our folks in our office, not this current team, but teams before, haven't been a willing partner with them. So,
Mhm.
for them to still come to me and say, "Hey, we want to work with you. We're happy to help. Whatever you need, let's do it together." I can't sing their praises enough for that because it really gets us all much, much further. And I think again, when I say ask questions on the system side, I think our campus partners need to ask questions too,
Mhm.
because we need to both be comfortable in exploring what this relationship is and being transparent about what it isn't, right?
Right.
I also believe that, clarity is of the highest form of respect. And so
Mhm.
making sure that what we're setting out to do, everyone's clear on it. Believe it or not, that's where a lot of things go wrong. Um, and you lose a lot of trust in that. So that's the other piece I would add for that.
That is awesome. And I think it's a bold step for a system to completely rethink of how they develop brand, don't develop brand, think about their individual roles as far as supporting like the individual universities and institutions. So appreciate the insight, Deneen. This has been great.
Yeah, no, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to come back and do more talks once we have our brand all worked out.
I mean, the show is called Talking Tactics, so you can come back anytime if you got a tactic. We're here.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much again. This has been great.
Absolutely. And you heard it, folks. Being clear in your purpose, and guess what? Your brand will present itself. So we will see you next time. Keep walking that walk and talking those tactics. Thanks for listening to Talking Tactics. If you want to try out the tactics you heard on today's show, you get a full 10 from me, and I would love to hear about how you made them your own. You can find me by searching Safania, Safaniya, on LinkedIn. There's not many Safanias on there, so you'll be able to see me. And if you're enjoying Talking Tactics, please rate and review the show. The overachiever in me needs your feedback, and I'll certainly use it for confirmation or, optimization, depending on the review. And finally, if you just can't get enough great podcasts, the Enrollify Podcast Network delivers with an amazing selection of other marketing and admissions-based podcasts just for you. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com. See you next time.